Let's take it back to the late 1990s. Hollywood was still laughing at superhero films. Studios didn't take them seriously. Comic book movies were seen as low-tier, low-risk, and often low-budget. And Marvel as a company? It had just been dragged through bankruptcy court. Public confidence was shattered, and the business was barely hanging on. Then a black man in black leather showed up on screen, Wesley Snipes as Blade, and suddenly the joke stopped. The film wasn't just good, it was a box office win. People bought tickets. Executives paid attention, and the so-called comic book movie era started moving like a machine. Here's where the Scope News investigation gets uncomfortable, because what happened with Blade wasn't just about Hollywood finally noticing a hit. It tapped into something much deeper, the long American tradition of black dollars, black talent, and black cultural heat, stabilizing systems that were never built to include black people in the first place. Let's get to the facts. Blade was released in 1998 by New Line Cinema, based on a lesser-known Marvel character. It earned over $70 million domestically on a reported $45 million budget, and its global earnings helped prove that comic book adaptations could turn real profits in theaters. This was years before the Marvel Cinematic Universe became a cultural empire. And yes, Marvel was truly in a financial crisis leading up to that moment. In 1996, the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. It wasn't theoretical. It's in court documents, financial records, and national business reporting. Marvel was licensing out its characters for survival. Blade was one of the first films to show the world that those characters had real theatrical potential. Blade didn't just make a profit. It delivered the kind of box office success Marvel desperately needed while the company was still digging itself out of bankruptcy. And yet, when people talk about the first major superhero film that changed everything, the conversation often skips right past Blade and goes straight to Iron Man or even back to Superman, as if the moment a white man put on a cape was the only one that mattered. But while the franchise moved forward, Snipes was left in the shadows. There was no celebration of what he started, no acknowledgement from the new Marvel era. Blade was quietly positioned as pre-MCU history, treated like it had nothing to do with the billion-dollar machine that followed. Now think about Cadillac. This is not folklore. During the Great Depression, Cadillac was struggling, sales were collapsing, and Cadillac had an official, unspoken rule: do not sell to black customers. Dealerships enforced it. The company didn't want black professionals, no matter how successful, associated with its brand. Cadillac positioned itself as a white luxury vehicle, and gate-kept its sales accordingly. Nicholas Drystad, a GM engineer, stepped in. He pushed Cadillac to drop its discriminatory policy. He had seen what the executives refused to acknowledge. Black buyers were already maintaining their vehicles in Cadillac service departments. They had money. They had taste. And they were being ignored. When Cadillac finally opened its doors to black customers, sales surged. Some reports say the company saw a 70% increase in revenue by 1934. Let that sink in. A racist company stayed afloat because it was forced to stop discriminating. It wasn't about justice, it was about desperation. And even then, Cadillac refused to reflect that change in its advertising. Black professionals were still absent from their campaigns. But on the street, everyone knew. Public figures like Muhammad Ali embraced the Cadillac, turning it into a status symbol of success and pride in the black community. The brand became aspirational because of black visibility, not because the company intended it. Again, the money was welcomed. The image was not. Woolworths followed a similar formula, but its roots of exclusion go back even further. As early as the 1920s, Woolworths five and dime stores were expanding across the U.S., quickly becoming one of the most profitable chains in retail. But beneath the success was a harsh truth. Black customers were expected to spend their money, but not to sit down. Throughout the Jim Crow era, Woolworths enforced segregation at its lunch counters. Black patrons could shop, but they couldn't eat at the same seats as white customers. They were told to stand, take their food to go, or leave entirely. And yet, the dollars were flowing. By the 1950s and 1960s, internal marketing reports and newspaper records proved something. It showed that Black Americans were spending millions at Woolworth stores across the country. Negro buying power was the term used in boardrooms. It was well documented that Black Americans were becoming wealthy during this time. Strategies were drawn up to better capture that money, without ever offering dignity in return. The hypocrisy boiled over in 1960 when 4 young Black students from North Carolina A&T walked into the Greensboro Woolworths and staged a sit-in at the whites-only counter. They weren't loud. They weren't violent. They were simply tired. They were refused service, but refused to leave. Their protest sparked a national movement. Across the country, other Woolworth locations were challenged. The store became the face of a contradiction, open to Black money, closed to Black presence. Even after boycotts cost the chain millions, leadership delayed integration. They didn't act out of morality. They acted out of pressure. These examples in separate periods both showed the same continuity of white companies disrespecting the power of the Black dollar. So when someone writes, "Blade saved Marvel," it's not exaggeration, it's memory, it's reflection. It's recognition of how American companies have long used Black brilliance to avoid collapse, while pretending those same contributions never happened once the profits arrive. Marvel was on life support in 1996. Blade helped change that, but the company's billion-dollar rise left its Black savior behind, just like Cadillac ignored the very customers that saved it. And Woolworths turned away the very people filling its registers. This isn't a footnote. It's a framework. Black dollars are always counted, but rarely honored. The support is used, the story is rewritten, the legacy is erased. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. Wesley Snipes starred as Blade in 1998, distributed by New Line Cinema. The film grossed over $130 million worldwide and was based on a Marvel Comics character. Marvel filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on December 27, 1996. Public court records and business media confirm the timeline. Blade became the first major theatrical Marvel success. Cadillac's sales discrimination and eventual reversal are documented in Hagerty, American Heritage, and Black Enterprise. GM engineer Nicholas Drystad advocated selling to Black consumers during the Great Depression. Following the change, Cadillac experienced a 70% sales increase in 1934. Public figures like Muhammad Ali helped shape the brand's cultural cachet. Woolworth's segregation history began in the 1920s and peaked during the Civil Rights era. Black consumer spending at Woolworths was substantial, yet access to seating and full service was denied. The 1960 Greensboro sit-ins, led by 4 Black students, are archived by the Smithsonian and Library of Congress as a turning point in national civil rights action. Corporate documents from the 1960s tracked Negro buying power, while stores remained segregated. Legal disclaimer. This Scope News report is presented for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes. It draws from historical archives, public court records, and verified journalism to examine systemic racism, legacy erasure, and Black economic impact. Viewer discretion is advised. All trademarks and names belong to their respective owners and are referenced here for commentary, analysis, and reporting under the principles of fair use.